Welcome to her Life Unscripted podcast, inspiring burnt-out women and stretched-thin mamas to embrace the unscriptedness of life. Brought to you by Anna Osborne. Hello, ladies, and welcome to her Life Unscripted episode 17. I hope all of you are just having a very, very joyful day today. I know that part of our intention of this podcast is bringing together our stories of when things just went so differently than we had planned. And I know that that is a scary, uncertain, overwhelming time. And so I just hope that you're listening today and just know that I'm holding an intention in my heart to just hopefully inspire you and care for you and support you. And I just hope that wherever you're at in life, if it's not in a place of joy, that it's one that you at least feel the comfort of all of us, just loving on you and hoping that you're able to find some way to take care of yourself in amongst it. So today we are talking with Amber Hawley, and we are talking about a pretty heavy subject. We're talking about infidelity and affairs. I know it's a really tough topic to talk about because it's one that oftentimes when there is an affair or infidelity in a relationship, there's so much shame that is connected with that experience and so much fear and uncertainty. And so I'm really excited today to have Amber talk about her work with couples in healing from infidelity and really just the resources that she has available to us. She's just a joy to be able to interview. She's somebody who has just this very inspiring and driven and yet very compassionate and just fun, loving side. And so I'm really excited for you guys to be able to get to know her. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she's also the founder and owner of Fremont Counseling Services. And I'll also be sharing about her program, couplesfix.com, which is a program that offers online resources for couples working to heal from infidelity in their relationship. Amber works with women and couples to create more fulfilling lives and relationships through what she calls conscious lifestyle design. She's also a wife and a mother of 3 amazing kids, and she's going to be able to talk to us not only about healing from affairs and infidelity, but also being able to manage life when it doesn't go on pause despite things being turned upside down. So I'm just really excited to be able to share Amber with you guys, and I know there's so much great material in what she has to offer. So without further ado, Amber Hawley. All right, welcome ladies to the podcast. I am really excited to have the amazing and just, energetic and infectious Amber Hawley on the show today. She's been so gracious with her time to be able to come on and chat with me, and you guys are just going to fall in love with her. She's just got this amazing energy about her, but she's also got this way that she just lays out this life, and I just love her view on things. So thank you, Amber, so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And so, I gave a little bit of your formal fancy introduction before we started recording. So everybody knows a little bit about you and kind of the work that you do as a therapist, but also, working with clients, and also that, being a wife and mom and things like that. And so what we really are talking about today is, when life happens, when these things happen that we could not in our wildest, dreams or nightmares imagine, of how we really get back on track. And you were just sharing this little story, and I'd love if you could share it again, because obviously we hadn't pressed record yet, about this experience you had in life of kind of seeing somebody else's chaos and feeling relief that wasn't you. And will you share that story real quick for the listeners? Because I think it's so relevant to what we're talking about.
Great. So this was back in 2012, and I had a client that I was seeing, and she was pretty high up exec in the corporate world and very successful. But one of the people that I've never seen like this much chaos in one person's life, grueling, demanding work schedule, like 14-hour days. And then in her personal life, lots of trauma, lots of just like, thing after thing just kept happening with family and deaths and illnesses and just the normal struggles of that. I think a lot of us probably around the country, but especially in the Bay Area, like the commuting and never having time for anything. And, how do you even fit in taking care of yourself, let alone grocery shopping? So it was the most chaotic I've seen in one person. And I remember thinking, like, at the time, my life felt really peaceful, and I had just had my second child, and I thought, God, we're so lucky. Everything's just so great. But these things can just come up and happen out of the blue that you have no control over, no matter how well you do your life, so to speak. And then sure enough, it did. As these things do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that what you say though is so important is that, we can be doing life exactly how we think we're supposed to, and these things can still happen. But yet there's a way that, when it's all happening, that we're going, what did I do wrong to have this happen? Or what's
Yes,
going on
yes.
within me, rather than you can be doing life as best as possible and things will still go down.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I think most of the time, like especially with the clients I see, but even in my own life, like sometimes I feel like I'm just teetering on the edge. Like I'm doing things good, but I'm like, okay, I can ignore this piece for a little while. And then when the stuff starts happening, like things outside your control, then it feels like it's all kind of coming down on you. It's just this avalanche where even if you again, quote unquote, are doing things well, like you're organized, you're on top of things, you're you know, got your lists or whatever, but still it happens. And then all of a sudden you're just kind of like, okay, what just happened to me? Yeah. And what did I do wrong? How could I have done this better?
Yeah, we start kind of internalizing it or ascribing it to our identity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So share a little bit about the work that you do with clients. I know that, a lot of, your expertise is really working with couples and especially affair recovery. I mean, that's just a profound area of expertise that you have with clients. And so can you share a little bit about, when you're working with clients, especially around affair recovery? I mean, that is just something that does pull the rug out from underneath the relationship. And they
Absolutely.
do, couples making the decision to heal the relationship and get back on track. What are some of the things that, you really see clients struggling with at the very beginning when that rug has been pulled out from them and kind of ground zero?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, specifically with affairs, I think it's such a confusing time because usually people are, there's so many emotions, betrayal, anger, frustration, sadness, guilt, shame, like everything's coming in the room all at once and they're in crisis. A lot of the times, the person who was the betrayed partner is trying to figure out, like, can I get past this? Which is not a question I think you can answer quickly. It takes time, but it's kind of like we need to make this all work, and we need to figure out all the answers and really quickly because I don't want to feel like this for very long. And in couples in general, it's I see a lot of people in crisis, even that aren't coming in for affairs, and usually again it's like there are these things like communication that isn't happening or has maybe never been happening, and things that they need to learn and understand about each other, but also it feels like all these other crises, and sometimes people come in and I'm helping them with just like the day-to-day stuff just to kind of like manage the crisis before we actually start working on stuff. Like people come in, they're like overloaded. And again, I'm sure this is everywhere, but specifically, I feel in the Bay Area, I see a lot of people in like startups or corporate, and they're working so many hours and commuting and their families, but then they're still saying yes to all this other stuff. And so they're drowning underneath all of this stuff. So it's just that helping them to figure out creative ways to give themselves the space and then teaching them the tools to get along with one another.
Yeah, I think what you just said is amazing because when we are at ground zero of, a trauma or of life taking a twist that we never expected, there is this sense of urgency of it feels so the feelings are so intense and so overwhelming that we do want to answer kind of the problem or fix it quickly as possible. And so we put this sense of urgency to it, but you're spot on that you can't answer these questions in the middle of the trenches quickly. And they're not easy answers. They're so dynamic and so multifaceted. And so that sense of urgency, I completely relate to what you're saying there. Just make the hurting and uncertainty stop. Let me get the answer, put a period on it and end it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? I mean,
So you're
I
saying
think
that you're not going to be telling us how exactly to do that today?
no, I think I would be beyond successful if I had that magic pill. I can't even imagine. Yeah, we all want that. I want that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, okay, what's the magic pill? I'll buy it. I
Right.
swear.
Right. Well, what did Oprah say that if there was some like magic secret to weight loss, she'd be a size 2. So clearly being like as successful and as wealthy as she is, there isn't a secret because, she was like pointing to herself and
Well, I
saying
could
like,
afford it.
right, absolutely. I could afford it and I don't even have it. So quit looking, people. So how, like thinking about that, I mean, what comes to mind is finding certainty in the uncertainty. Like that
Yeah.
becomes key in some ways. And so what are your thoughts on that? Is especially working with, folks who are at such a pivotal point in their relationships or their lives, is how do we start finding certainty when everything is so uncertain?
It differs for everybody, but I think if I think about it overall, it's about finding, sometimes it's the small routines or taking that space for yourself, that kind of the things that are within your control, which in reality is very little, unfortunately. But doing the small things for yourself or your own sanity that kind of give back to you and kind of let you have that respite while you're going through all of this. You know, so I don't know if it's certainty, but it's kind of like giving yourself peace.
Hmm.
I think they want certainty, but yeah, I think it's like, saying, okay, I I have these people where they're going through this and they're probably a little closer on the OCD side of like cleaning and stuff like that. And we talk about like it's okay to like put a pin in that. And that doesn't mean that you're giving up on who you are or how you like things or your expectations of yourself or values, but you're going to just like set that aside for a minute and take care of the things that are more important that are actually giving back to you than really obsessing about every minute detail over, I used to be able to have everything perfect in this way. And well, yeah, but you weren't going through this crisis. So it's not realistic, right? Like managing expectations. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that it used to be or the way that it used to work is not, is not realistic when everything's been turned upside down.
Absolutely. And that's frustrating is all get out. I mean, it pisses people off and I get it. It pisses me off. Like I'm like this sucks. I used to be capable and now, it's a new world, honey, and it's time to to accept that.
Right, right. New world order, right? This is what it looks like
Exactly.
now. Yeah.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
So speak to that. So if there is a new world order, which is so true, right? The set of rules that we were living life under prior to, the rug being pulled out is gone, right? Like those set of rules are thrown out. And so we have to really figure out what these new rules are,
Yeah.
in order to be able to live in amongst them. And so some of the new rules, I mean, you touched on it, is that, you can't answer some of these questions quickly, that it isn't a linear experience. It's a game of pinball, and that what you used to be able to do is no longer the truth. What are some of the new rules that you see folks really kind of identifying to be able to understand how this new world looks after a big trauma or a big change?
Thinking about now specifically again couples like when they've been through affairs or when they're recovering from an affair, the feeling is that yeah, I want to go back to normal. And it's like, well, it's never going to do that. So it's the new normal. So what does the new normal look like? And that means, it's accepting like changes in the way you express intimacy. Sometimes it's sex. There's differences in the way that they're having sex or, things that they're open to, which could be either more or less, right? It just depends on where the people are at trauma wise. It's, I'll have people come in and they say, well, this used to not be an issue. We used to not, it used to be this way and it was fine. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's not anymore. Now things have changed. You've changed fundamentally, emotionally. And so now you have to accept that you might have to put in more effort or do things differently and connect and communicate differently, because it has changed who you are as a person. Because it's such a major trauma having, going through infidelity in your romantic relationship. It's huge.
Oh, absolutely. And the grief that comes with exactly what you just brought up is that it is a new normal. The old normal is gone. That
Yeah.
has been, burned to the ground through the trauma of the betrayal. And so being able to grieve that loss and recognize that this new world order comes with an acknowledgement of that loss.
Yeah, and it takes time to get to this place, but honestly, sometimes it's better. I've seen couples where they were okay or they were kind of had what I call that little bit of that roommate syndrome but then this happened and it kind of rocked everything for them. But they end up being closer and more connected and they feel closer than ever. I mean, that takes time. Now that's far down the road, but I've seen that. I've seen that where people have actually made choices to really work on it and put the effort in, where they kind of were taking it for granted before. And then something like this happens and it's like taking it for granted is not going to be acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Like you better be given, to get that kind of thing. Like no one wants to stay in that relationship if no one's going to put the effort in.
Yeah, absolutely. And my listeners know this because I've shared a lot about it, but my belief system is, and it's okay that people have different ones, but mine is that it's not that everything happens for a reason or something good will come of this. Like it's just not the view that I see things through. But what I do really believe is that, really hard or bad things can happen and we get to choose how it defines us, like how we integrate it into our story versus it being all of our story. And that place of coming out the other side. And like you said, that is long-term work where couples are able to come to the other side of it and get through the anniversaries and the triggers and all those sorts of things and reconnect and heal and go, wow, we're stronger than we ever were before. So it's not saying, oh, something good came of it. It's saying that in this tragedy, you found the choice, and the choice was to really work on this and create that stronger connection, or one that was, built with a different tools in the foundation, if you will.
Absolutely. And it makes me think about, we talk about anybody who's been through any trauma, whatever it is, the people who seem to fare well the best after. And again, I'm not talking anytime soon. This is a process. But the people who fare the best are people who can find meaning in it. And that doesn't mean it's not shitty and horrible and all those bad things, but that they can find some way of making it meaningful to them and learning something from it and growing from it. So I think that yeah, it's that choice. Do you want to find something that helps you in this? It's there. Mm-hmm. It may not look the way you want it to look, but it's there.
I think that becomes interesting, right? You think about how people define what success is or how they define what healing looks like. And when you go through these moments where everything that you thought you knew to be true is no longer, is we also have to look at how we're kind of operationally defining things, right? Like, what does success mean? What does connection look like? What does intimacy look? What does vulnerability look like? I mean, like all the gamut of it, you do have to kind of go back to the drawing board and say, how are we going to redefine these things so they work with this new life that we're living?
And that's hard. That's really hard. That's why it's great to have a therapist to help you through that.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that, you mentioned this at the very beginning, especially around infidelity, that there is so much shame associated with it, and so much blame on not only the partner that has been betrayed, but also the injuring partner, that there is a huge shame that is carried. And so oftentimes people do not reach out for support. They want to do it in a, we can just ignore it. Or, I've had couples come to me where the affair took place 14 years ago. Absolutely. And this is the first time they're reaching out for support. And, there's part of me that's like, wow, that's so courageous. And the other part of me is heartbroken that 14 years have gone on in their relationship where they've tried to stuff down something that's so traumatic and act like it didn't happen.
Absolutely. I have those clients too. And what always blows my mind too is that willingness to say, oh, that wasn't such a big deal. We're here for communication. I'm like, no, it's actually a very big deal. But it's so shameful. Like you said, what do we want to do? We want to avoid that. That feels awful. Let's just move on. I learned my lesson. Let's just move on, because no one wants to look at that. It feels awful. And I see so many couples dealing with infidelity, and the person who had the affair so often, and there are exceptions and every situation is different, but so often there are people who are struggling themselves and going through something, and they make a choice that is so outside of their character or value system, and that's what crushes them. They feel so bad about it. And these are really good, wonderful people, but they made a very, very, poor choice in how to cope.
And I think that is what very difficult aspect for the injuring partner, because they almost feel like they don't get to have a voice anymore. Like they're the ones that cause the pain, right? Yep. In terms of, you guys can't see me, I just did air quotes.
I keep doing that.
I know, absolutely. Like nobody can see you, they can just hear our voices. But because they feel like they're the ones that have inflicted the pain, they don't get to also have a platform to talk about their pain and their shame of, how did I, make a choice that's so misaligned with how I see myself in the world or my value system or my morals. And so I think think that part of this, healing process that you're talking about, it really is both partners, and being able to have a space for the partner who took the action or made the choice to be unfaithful, that their healing work is really powerful, but it can be hard for the other partner to allow them to have a space to talk in that aspect.
I think that is a big piece of I spend a lot of time with that as well, with people who are really stuck in that shame place of, your needs matter too. That's something I say all the time. I'm like, yes, we have to be considerate. Yes, you have to, try to be there for your partner when they're really struggling, but your needs matter too. And so, it's okay to set boundaries around, if you're overwhelmed, it's not going to help the situation, because you don't want to just like suck it up forever. And what ends up happening is it creates more resentment. And then that's a problem in the relationship. And resentment is insidious in a relationship. The more it builds up, and sometimes people just can't get past it. So yeah, I think it's a huge part of the healing. It's both of them. It's both people.
Yeah, and being able to create the space for that. I know we talked about this, and I think you had read all of it or part of it, Rising Strong, Brene Brown's book.
Yes.
But, she talks about the stealth expectations, and that, there's these ways that we expect things, especially in our partnerships, but we don't even know that we've placed it on there. Like, it's super like stealthy in that way, but that is the breeding ground for resentment, right? Like, if I go into a situation and I have this set of expectations that I'm not even aware of, and then PS, you don't meet those expectations, heck yeah, here comes resentment.
Yeah. And what do you do with that? I mean, it's impossible, because you're both in this impossible position, because nobody knows what's going on. All you know is you feel this distance, and you feel this, bad feeling between the two of you, and it just keeps growing, and it's terrible. It's terrible. That's why it's great when both people come in. But often I will have people come in, usually like the betrayed partner will come into therapy and their partner won't come in. And I get it. I get that sometimes it's just too much for them, but it's not the ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. The more people that you can have that are in the relationship in the room, the better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me that system, right? Give me the environment to work with, and we can start creating more change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very cool. So now in terms of this work, in terms of like getting back on track when life happens, what are some of the ways that, not only, whether personally or professionally, that you've been able to really kind of encourage or move along that path? Any things that you have found to be really helpful? Because I know it so connects with my listeners.
Obviously it's tailored to each person, because each couple or each person is unique. But some of the stuff that I find kind of works overall is the stuff that I use for myself as well, like having been through my own series of traumas in the last few years. And I think it's kind of like going back to basics. Like, to me, the most important thing is, getting adequate sleep, eating well, and exercising. And I kind of consider that the foundation of taking care of yourself. And, it gives you the ability to cope better, because so often when people go through trauma, or they, or just major stressors, they're not sleeping. And to me, that's the most important thing you can do for your mental and physical health, is just get that sleep. But that's easier said than done, right? Because insomnia and, just that stress and worry that keeps you up all at night. So really working on sleep is a big thing I do with clients that I work with. And there's a lot of great information out there about sleep hygiene and, like ways to set yourself up for success. Some of them are kind of boring and they're not so fun, but you have to do it. You have to realize that the payoff is so much greater. And so that's a big piece. That's one that that comes up so frequently. And again, like I said, the eating well and exercising. And again, I get when we're in an emotional time, I'm a stress eater myself. So of course I would love to just eat chocolate and like chips or whatever, but that doesn't actually end up helping you feel better in the long run. It doesn't help, with mood stabilizing, blood sugar, and all of that. Like, it just makes you feel worse afterwards, except for sometimes, that's, that's my rule. That's my rule, except for sometimes, sometimes that's also what I do for clients, is give them permission to be like, yeah, no, I'm going to do the unhealthy, there's air quotes again, unhealthy thing, or, the thing that just in the moment gives me that joy. Sometimes you need to do that. I think what a lot of the work I do is helping people to say no to things. There's a lot of like, but I have to do this or I should do this. And, that's like volunteering at your kid's school or planning parties or for other people or, taking care of all these other people who may or may not reciprocate. Even if they're wonderful people who do reciprocate, there are times when you're going through the trauma, you don't have the bandwidth. And you kind of have to check that out for yourself. Sometimes it's nice to be distracted, but sometimes that distraction keeps you from moving forward.
Well, I like the idea of bandwidth, right? That when we are in a place of more grounded, that our bandwidth is greater. These kind of foundational things like, good sleep, eating healthy, exercise or movement, that those things can come more naturally. But that when it comes to being in a place of trauma, our bandwidth is so small that we actually have to be very diligent about just the foundational things, that those actually are the bare minimum.
Yeah. And that's why I say them in the order of sleep, then food, then exercise, because that's the thing. Sometimes all you can do is focus on your sleep and everything else is just a crapshoot, and like do what you can, and until you're getting adequate sleep. And everybody's recharged in different ways, but yeah, sometimes you just don't have it in you. And like I have people who are, going through really serious trauma stuff within their couple or personally, and they're still like, well, I gotta go do this and then cook dinner and then do this and blah blah blah. Like it's just the chore list, right? The day-to-day grind. And I'm like, I don't care if your kids sit on the iPad for 2 weeks and eat pizza every night. Like sometimes give yourself a little breather. That's not the long-term solution, but in that little moment, like give yourself a breather, for gosh sakes. Like it's not that important.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny, in terms of Amber and I got to hang out 2 months ago now. It's been 2 months since we saw each other in Vegas. That's wild to me. We spent a week in Vegas working, which is kind of an oxymoron, but right. But we literally sat at this house with 8 other women and just worked our tushes off and had lots of fun and laughed and drank a little bit of wine and just had a good time together and really got some work in, but some support. But one of my projects that I was working on was launching this podcast, and I remember kind of like raising my hand and declaring and saying like, I am giving myself permission to use childcare as much as I need to in the next 2 months until I launch this thing, because there's no way that I can do that while having, 2 small children underfoot. And it was so funny because giving myself permission to, and of course, this isn't a trauma in any way, but giving myself permission to be able to do what I need to do to accomplish or to move to this place that I'm trying to get to, I had to say it out loud, because it was like, well, if I say it just in my head, then, oh gosh, maybe it won't be real. And so recognize that these are, especially when it comes to trauma, these are temporary ways that we are coping. And so giving ourselves permission to say, we are going to be eating pizza for the 3rd night this week, and the world is not going to come crashing around us. Instead, we're going to have a little bit more energy to take care of ourselves and get the sleep and those sorts of things.
Absolutely. And I think about this, like, not even just like you said, not around trauma, but just trying to accomplish big goals, or especially as an entrepreneur, like sometimes you have to do that. You have to like uber focus on something, and you got to give yourself permission that everything else is okay, that it doesn't look how like the way you normally do it, right? You have to give yourself that permission. It's not possible. You just won't do it. And so I read an article recently about entrepreneurship, and I still think it applies whether it's trauma or not, right? Is that we all have like 4 burners, and like one burner is family and friends, one burner is work, one burner's your own health, and another burner, now I'm not going to think of it.
I can never remember the last thing of a list.
Oh.
Like my 5 senses, I can tell you 4. Like it doesn't matter what it is. I'm always one item short of my list.
Frustrating. Yeah. Maybe Friends was the 4th burner. Yes, Friends was the 4th burner. Yes. Haha. I triumphed. So, and they were talking about that, if you really want to be, focused or good or successful at something, then you can't have all 4 burners running at once. You have to turn off a burner. And if you want to be really successful, you got to turn off 2 burners. And that doesn't mean forever. It just means temporarily you have to focus like that. And it's so true. And allowing yourself that. But, the mommy guilt comes up. I mean, I'm sure daddy guilt comes up too, but I can only speak to mommy guilt. Hey, I work with women for a living with this, and it still comes up for me. So that's where I have to talk to myself and say, hey, this, yes, I would love to cook an organic meal because I actually love cooking. My kids aren't going to eat it anyway because they're under 6 and they're picky, but I would love to do that for my family, but right now is not the time. So, I'm shutting off all that other stuff and I'm just focusing on this. Like, I have friends asking me to do things, or, I had people like, oh, could you write me a letter of recommendation or this and that? And I'm like, I just, not right now. I can't do anything until July because I'm in the middle of something. And, sometimes that feels bad, but you just kind of, I think as you practice it more, you get better with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that even just this last month and a half, 2 months as I've been recording and things, it's gotten easier, but that guilt was so high. It was like even though I was kind of like proclaiming it to all of you, it was also giving myself permission of like, okay, is anybody going to pop up and say, well, Anna, that makes you a horrible mom. You're going to, utilize childcare as much as no one said it amazingly. Right. And it was like, oh, okay. So this room full of women that I really respect are encouraging me saying, well, heck yeah, how else are you going to get it done? That I need to really honor that. And I think, really tying it back, especially to affairs, I'm sure that I see this and I'm sure you do too, is how important the healing is for each partner and the relationship, but how much guilt that, and we'll speak to women, that moms can feel of, I can't fall apart in front of my kids. Like, yes. I can't, they still need to have every semblance of normalcy, even though life is not, like we said, it's not normal anymore. And just trying to keep up with this pace that then inflicts so much guilt on them because life is going to look different during that healing process.
Absolutely. And you're not always going to make the perfect choice. There's my air quotes again. The perfect choice, or do everything the way that you normally would, or the quote unquote right way, because that's not realistic, because we're humans and humans aren't perfect. You're in the wrong species for that. And so you need to just give yourself a break. And it's true. You make a good point. I have those people in, and I'll have the mothers, whether or not they were the one who had the infidelity or the one who was cheated on, they will say like, now my kid's acting out and I feel awful and I feel so guilty because we're all going through this. And so helping them through that is really important. And it's tough because it's like, okay, maybe they're acting out. Maybe it's because they're 3 that they're acting out. Maybe it has nothing to do with this, but probably, there's a lot of yelling or stuff going on at home that might be impacting them. But again, you can't beat yourself up about that too much. You can just try to make better choices going forward, because bandwidth. And the reality is, we don't make positive choices from places of pain. I truly believe that. I think we need to be more compassionate with ourselves. And when we do that and we give ourselves that permission, we proclaim it, we proclaim, this is what I need and I'm going to take it. That's when we make positive change in our life.
That's powerful. Yeah. We can't make positive choices out of pain. I think that's just something that's so important for us. And being able to have that is what grounds us. Right. And we can offer ourselves a lot of grace when we recognize that the choices we're making in amongst that moment of pain, we have to create some separation. Otherwise we just go down a very, very dark, slippery slope with it. So, and I want to be conscientious of your time because you're so gracious to be able to kind of record with me today. So thinking about the work that you do and really, clients coming in after a huge trauma has hit the relationship and specifically affairs, what are some, kind of words of encouragement or things that you would want to offer to help them get the support that they need to start that healing process? Like, what are the things that they need to be paying attention to? I love that you highlighted, like, this work needs to be done with a therapist or a trained professional. You can't, heal that on your own. What are any words of encouragement or kind of resources that you can offer them?
I think it's the most helpful and the most frustrating, and that is things take time. And it's just going to take time, and being okay to be in that place where it really sucks. There's not much you can do about those moments, but just accept that things do take time, but things change. And so it won't always be like this. It never is. Those first few weeks can feel like an eternity, but eventually of any trauma, you eventually come out the other side. And so, things take time, but also time does heal. I do think that when I say time does heal, time helps give us perspective. But certain things need to be worked through in order to heal. And I think affairs are one of those things, right? They don't just get better on their own. Like, pretending it didn't happen won't work. Another big piece is trauma in general, but again, in affairs, is finding somebody that you can talk to, I mean, outside of therapy. And this one's a tough one because often people, they don't want to like taint the well, so to speak. They don't want their friends to like hold a grudge against their partner, when they get through it all and make it work. But finding at least one person who understands what you're going through, that you don't have to talk about all the details, and hopefully they're really good with boundaries and they don't like tell you what to do all the time. But finding one person that you can just talk to and call up at like 10 o'clock at night and saying, hey, I'm having a bad night, and they will understand what you mean and just be there as a support, make you laugh, whatever it is, listen to you. Sometimes you just need to be listened to. I think social support networks are the most important factor. Yeah, I just recently, having gone through my own big trauma, that was so eye-opening for me at how much that made the difference. Like, it made it feel bearable. And again, with affairs, because it's tricky, right? Because it's a very shame-based thing. Finding that person might be tough. And at first, sometimes people say, I don't have anyone that I feel comfortable with right now. And so that can be a process too of figuring that out, because you don't want to share it with the wrong person who makes you feel worse or makes you feel like you have to make a choice or leave, or, gives you their baggage, right? But I think it can be really, really helpful having someone else to just kind of lean on that isn't your partner. Sometimes people lean on their partners, and that's fine too, if that works in your relationship. So yeah, social support network, understanding, setting your expectations that it's going to take a while, getting professional help when you need it. And I think it's like turning off those burners. Again, like giving yourself permission, setting expectations, like, I can't be Superwoman for the next couple of weeks because I'm going through hell. And I say that kind of sarcastically. I'm like, because we shouldn't be Superwoman, and it should be longer than more than a couple of weeks. But, but yes, giving yourself like that permission to let things slide, not be, 100% on top of it person that you usually are.
I love that. I think that's such an important reminder. And also too, like you said, when you're looking for that support person, a friend or somebody like that, is also, like you said, being able to make sure it's somebody who's not going to put their own baggage in it. And also that they're going to be able to just be that neutral kind of soft landing versus, yeah, screw them, or what were you thinking, or whatever it is, that they really are that soft landing for you just to be able to process what you need to process. And then obviously including the professional support there too. Well, Amber, it's always so fun to talk to you. Thank you so much. Before we wrap today, how can folks find you? I mean, your work is just so powerful and so necessary, because there is, unfortunately, a lot of trauma that happens in our relationships, and affairs are a reality. And I think being able to have the right support so that it doesn't stay shame-based any longer than it already has been is really important. So how can folks find you?
Right. Well, thank you. So there's two places. One is my new endeavor that will definitely be launched by the time this podcast comes out. So that would be at couplesfix.com. It's not therapy, but it's that online resource for people to either, the first program is actually called Affair Repair. So it's helping people through the steps and giving them a little bit of a structure, which actually I think can feel good. Having that routine or structure can be a little calming, and education and so forth. So Affair Repair is the program, but couplesfix.com. And it also is for all relationships, not just affairs. It's for the roommate syndrome, or how to stay connected and survive after having children, because that's really hard in relationships too. So that's number one. Number two is, if you're in the area, I own Fremont Counseling Services, and that's in Fremont, California, and I provide psychotherapy there. So right now, those are the two places to catch me at.
Awesome. And I'll include those links in the show notes too, so folks can click on them very easily. But thank you so much for your time today, Amber. It was so much fun to chat with you and just hear about all the amazing work that you're doing, and just the great resource that you are to couples going through this.
Thank you so much.
I'm really excited to have been able to share Amber Hawley with you and her great expertise. One of the things I love about Amber is she just has this way about herself to be able to talk about something that's really difficult, like infidelity, and really give a hopeful outlook to it. Because I think so often we get these messages in the media that there's no coming back from affairs. And that's really not the case. There's a lot of amazing healing work that can be done. And I'm really excited that Amber was able to share that with us. One of the really big things that I took away from my time with Amber was also this recognition that there are times when you're going through trauma that you don't have the bandwidth for what you may have had before. And I think that that's really important reminder for all of us that whatever our capacity was prior to the trauma, and especially infidelity in this case, is that we are not going to be able to have the same bandwidth for what we were able to before, and really give ourselves permission to step back and know that it's not going to look the same. I do like also how she points out that, humans aren't perfect and you're in the wrong species if you're looking for that. That just cracked me up because, man, is that true? There's nothing about being a human that is perfect. I really hope that you got so much from Amber's time. She was so generous to give it to us, and she is just such a great resource. I've included all of the links that she referred to in the show notes, so please refer there to be able to get that information. And thank you so much. I would really encourage all of you that when you finish listening to the episode today to head over to iTunes and leave a rating or a review. That's such a great way for us to be able to keep this podcast on the front line so that everybody else can see it and just become part of this amazing community we're growing. So thank you so much, and please do send in your feedback via the SpeakPipe app and also to Anna at herlifeunscripted.com. You ladies are amazing, and I'm so blessed to be on this journey with you. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this show and any questions that came up for you, because I know that talking about infidelity is a really tough topic. And so whatever questions you have, please send them over. I'm happy to help answer them. And if not, be able to point you to Amber, because she's an amazing resource, clearly, from all of her expertise she shared. Thank you so much, ladies, for letting me into your world and into your hearts, and just have a blessed day, and be sure and take care of yourselves and one another. Bye-bye.